Well, it's been quite a while since I posted a new video. I've had multiple inquiries into why no recent posts, and I appreciate the interest and concern. So, first, let me fill you in on what's been happening with me since the end of last summer. My wife Tammy and I moved to Brentwood, Tennessee, a suburb of Nashville, in December of 2020. I got my new office set up and began publishing my Musings of a Texas Preacher Man. As 2021 progressed, I decided I needed a way to increase my income. So I looked at several options. First and foremost, I love teaching and preaching, but frankly, there were no opportunities presenting themselves. So I began to hear about the shortage of truck drivers across the country and the opportunities available to those who would acquire their commercial driver's license. So I looked into it. And in September of 2021, I attended a CDL school and successfully acquired my CDL license and was qualified to drive tractor trailers commercially. I obtained a job with Covenant Transport based out of Chattanooga, Tennessee. You've probably seen their trucks around the country with the sign on the back of every one of their trailers saying, "It's not a choice, it's a child." And I was able to make my home base out of their Nashville terminal. I teamed up with another new driver who happens to be 24 years old and lives in my same area. We agreed to give it a go together and see if we could make it work. We began driving as a team in December of 2021 and have made it successful for both of us. We're on the road 5 days a week, crossing from east to west and then back east again, driving about 5,600 miles each week. It's been a great and demanding experience. Due to being home only 2 nights a week and 2.5 days, my time is very limited. Something had to give, and unfortunately, it was producing my Musings of a Texas Preacher Man. But now, after 6 months, getting into a regular route, knowing what to expect, I've decided to step back on a limited basis and will be posting Monday Musings. Each Monday, I'll post a new video that will delve into a broad array of subjects, things I've seen and heard on the road, what I'm reading, cultural, social, political, and theological issues. If you've been a regular follower of my teaching over the years, you know that about 9 years ago, I made a major shift in my understanding of Scripture and embraced the view of fulfilled eschatology or preterism. Central to that belief is that all biblical prophecy reached its fulfillment in the birth of Jesus Christ, the forerunner ministry of John the Baptist, the ministry of Jesus, and the launch of the kingdom of heaven, or the kingdom of the heavens, as Dallas Willard described it. The destruction of Jerusalem in 70 AD was a major prophetic fulfillment that brought an end to the Old Covenant. And after a 40-year overlap between the Old Covenant and the New Covenant, the old came to an end and the new was fully realized. Everything in Scripture was pointing to this transition from the natural to the spiritual. Paul described it as first the natural, then the spiritual. We're not awaiting the promise of a return of Jesus to planet Earth to establish his kingdom. His kingdom has come, and he is on his throne, ruling and reigning as King of Kings and Lord of Lords. Those who are of faith, who receive him as the promised one, are new creations and a part of the new covenant where we live in his presence. He is among us. We've been raised up and seated with him in heavenly places. That is present reality for all who are born from above. Now, if you're like me, you've tired of the endless projections and prophecies of the soon-to-be return of Christ and subsequent end of the world as we know it. The text of Scripture, instead of speaking of an end of the world as we know it at some point in our future, spoke of an end of the old covenant world culminating in the destruction of Jerusalem, the end of the old covenant age, and the judgment upon the apostates of Judaism who rejected Jesus as the promised one and had their promised Messiah crucified and then relentlessly persecuted his first century followers. Now, this story begins in Genesis and continues through Revelation. Now, relationship with God is not through bloodline, ritual, or geography, but through faith. And it's open to all people everywhere, regardless of race, ethnicity, or socioeconomic status. Whosoever will may come. That is good news. Now, if what I've said to you is new, I challenge you to study, study, study. Don't just parrot what you've always heard. Ask questions, dig deep. Realize that there are deeply devoted followers of Jesus Christ who may not be a part of your tribe, your theological bubble. Recognize that truth always rises above falsehood and is available to anyone who's willing to pursue it. Now, this ties into what we're seeing culturally right now. There's a huge debate taking place over free speech and misinformation or disinformation. With Elon Musk's purchase of Twitter and his expressed commitment to free speech, the opponents of free speech are coming unhinged. Pick the topic, whether it's COVID, the war in Ukraine, whether or not men can be pregnant and menstruate, whether a biological man can change into a biological woman, or whether a biological woman can change into a biological man, whether or not 5, 6, 7, and 8-year-olds should be taught about gender identity and be able to undergo hormone therapies and genital mutilation. There is a movement to eliminate legitimate debate. George Orwell's 1984 is coming to fruition. The Biden administration last week announced the formation of a Ministry of Truth, a government agency within the Department of Homeland Security to expose and fight misinformation, obviously defined as any view that does not line up with their radical left-wing agenda. It's insane, but truth will win out. It will win out politically, culturally, socially, and theologically. Well, I look forward to posting Monday Musings, and I hope you'll join me right here every Monday. Hope you have a great day and a great week. I'll look forward to seeing you next Monday.